So why don't we start with intros, kick things off. Nikita, do you want to start and give an intro on yourself?
Yeah, sure. My name is Nikita. I'm CEO and co-founder of Maildoso. Maildoso is a cold email infrastructure company. So we essentially create mailboxes for people who want to send cold emails to B2B companies.
Awesome. Josh, you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, thanks. Josh Whitfield. I'm the founder of Content Marketing Media. We are, an outbound agency that helps a lot of tech and SaaS companies in different verticals, with go-to-market motions and doing a whole lot of cold email. So.
Amazing. And Virari? Great.
Hey, Rory Baker, co-founder, CEO of Allegrow. We help B2B go-to-market teams reach the primary inbox by verifying contacts that legacy systems miss and ignore.
Amazing. And hey, if you don't know me, I'm Bethany from SendSpark, and we do AI personalized video at scale for outbound and other email campaigns. So cool. Let's dive right in. I think, what we try to do by putting this webinar on, at SendSpark, we get a lot of questions on email deliverability from our customers. And so we reached out to some of the best email experts that we knew in the space to get everyone on a panel for you. So I'm hoping that we get some really good content out of this and that it's really relevant. Emails only matter if they actually reach their recipients. So you can have the best email in the world, the best offer, but if people aren't actually getting in their primary inbox, none of that matters. So let's dive in. We'll start with Josh and just talk about, I'd love to know how you guys are sending high volume campaigns on behalf of your clients to make sure that people are actually receiving them.
Yeah, thanks, Bethany. I mean, I think first you have to think, you kind of break it down a little bit from the beginning and say, I like to tell clients cold email is like, I'm on this call right now and the dog barks and someone knocks on the door uninterrupted, because that's really what it is, right? Like, we're sending email to people in their inbox when they have 19 other things to do. They have messages from their boss, etc. So I always frame our context from that perspective because it really kind of drives everything else we do going forward, right? So if we're going to send emails to people, number one, we need to do a really good job of making sure that we're sending emails to relevant people, right? So if we have an offer, we need to understand that offer, understand the ICP, and then we need to send a message that is professional, that addresses something that we're introducing in the offer, and it needs to be the right person. So I think for us, those things are kind of fundamental, but I also think they directly contribute to deliverability. So, what we could do a year and a half ago, sending cold emails in mass volumes and getting a lot of replies, is drastically different today. And I think a lot of that has to do, honestly, with AI. So my background, I used to manage data scientists and automation teams at a Fortune 500 company. And this was before ChatGPT, right? So a lot of Python, a lot of R, a lot of really boring programmatic stuff that you can now do with a prompt in ChatGPT. And in insurance, so super boring, and all had to be approved by legal and compliance people. So I give that context to say that today, watching how emails change, I believe it has to do a lot with AI. And I firmly believe if you use Gmail, if you have Gmail and you understand the concept that Gmail can read your email and suggest or actually write the reply for you, if you don't think that that technology is being deployed to every email that's sent, I think that's something I want you to take away from today, right? Is that Google, Microsoft are investing billions of dollars in AI. And of course, they are reading every single email that is sent. And the reason why, right, it's not because they hate cold email. I think that's the important thing to remember. It's not because they don't like cold email or they're trying to stop cold email. They're all worried about the phishing attack that one employee clicks at a Fortune 500 company that then causes a $10 million or $10 billion ransomware demand. And now they're on the news and now they're sinking the stock market, right? Like we all saw last week when Cloudflare was down, right? And like Google Cloud was down and all these, downstream effects, right? So it does happen. It's real, right? And so when we think about why they do that, we think about what are the mechanisms they're going to put in place to stop it and what's going to allow us to be successful. And I think number one is relevancy, right? And it's writing good emails to the right people. Number two, it's not being stupid with the amount of emails you send, right? Like when we look at the thousands of email accounts, for example, that we have with Maildoso, and Nikita's on the call, he can attest when he looks at our volume, we're not sending 20, 30, 40, 50 emails a day. Sometimes we go up to 20, 25. The vast majority of our accounts are 10 to 12 emails a day. And then with warm up, we have a lot more warm up to offset that. And that was actually something we learned from Maildoso, is to have a high volume of warm up to offset the actual emails we send. And that has drastically improved our deliverability. But I think in a nutshell for us is, as we've seen the AI get better, we've had to get better in how we write our copy. We've had to be much more relevant. I don't like the word personalization, because I think we do use a lot of personalization, but I think it needs to be relevant personalization. Not like, hey, I saw you were the founder at ABC company, right? Specific, relevant things that relate to our offer. And I think I say this all the time to my team, you need to sound like a human. You can't sound like an AI, right? You have to sound like a human. You need to spend the time building prompts, if you're going to use AI, that are relevant, that speak to relevant pain points. And ultimately, I hate to say it, but don't sound markety. If you sound like the mastermind guy on Facebook, then you sound like the 19 other people that are sending emails to the exact same people using the exact same script. You have to be relevant. You have to be professional. And when you do that consistently, no matter what type of client it is, in my opinion, you're just going to have a much better chance at success. And like Bethany said, like you can spend, I don't even know how much money we spend on lead gen. It's a lot. I don't know how much money we spend on infrastructure, but it's a lot. And we spend a whole bunch of time, like I think I have every API key to every model that exists on the planet at this point. But none of that matters if you don't hit the inbox. I can tell you that most of the people that we're writing emails on behalf of, our clients, who we're sending them to, they don't have time to go through the spam folder. And often when I'm meeting with clients, I'll say, you want to know the difference between professional and relevant email? I say, go look at your inbox right now. And even the ones that make it to your inbox, most of them are bad, in my opinion, because I get them all the time, right? Be the ones that are good, and that will be a strategic advantage. But if you actually want to have a chance, don't be the 19 people that are in my spam inbox this morning. And it's, my time, it's only 10 o'clock, right? Because those people I'm not even seeing. I go in there to look, it's fun. And sometimes I'll, write back to them and say, hey, do you want to actually hit the inbox? But more times than not, you can see the difference between good professional email by using the right tools and just by looking at all the people that are doing it bad because they're in your spam folder and doing it different and doing it professional. So that's kind of what works for us. Volume for us, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've sent 1 million emails a month for a client. We send 25,000. It doesn't matter. It's sticking to the fundamentals, whether you're doing it, 100 emails a day for a client or you're doing it 10,000 emails a day.
So one question I just want to drill into is, you mentioned, 100 or 1,000 emails a day, but also that you're only sending 10 to 12. So can you explain the variance?
Yeah, we just buy a lot of email accounts, at the end of the day, right? That's how we accomplish that. And it's, as you do this, like when we had 1 or 2 clients in the beginning, of course, we're just like, I want to spend as little as possible and send as many as possible, right? But I'm very much a data guy, and I look at data and religiously look at our email campaigns, the data from our providers, a lot of data from Maildoso, and say like, what works? And I just have found that our approach is, I would rather have a lot more infrastructure and send at lower volumes than have exactly the infrastructure and push that infrastructure, because I think it's a very delicate, this in some ways, deliverability is almost rocket science. Like, and I think Nikita can agree, like it's, there's so many different domains and receivers and Proofpoint and Barracuda and all this back end IP stuff that I don't pretend to try to understand. But the one thing I've seen that's constant is that, and we accomplished that, Bethany, by just saying like, look, I'm not going to, buy this fancy car and drive it 100 miles an hour all the time. Instead, we're just going to buy more cars and drive them slower.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's different than what a lot of people are doing. I mean, people maybe using multiple email accounts is well known, but I think the volume is actually lower than typical, but I think it makes a big difference. So.
Yeah. And Josh, can we clarify on that? So when you're talking about the 12 per day, that's for your clients mainly when you're executing campaigns for them, right?
Yeah, like a typical client will have 100 email accounts. We'll send 10 to 12 per day. And even like we will send video in an email. We'll send links in an email, and then we lower it even further, sometimes like 3 or 4 a day. And so it's really not, there are times when we'll push it a little higher, 15, 20. We never send more than 25, 30, 40. I see it all the time, people wanting to do that, but I think for us, it's just, when you see something works and you do it consistently and you do it at high volume, then you stick with it, right? And that's where definitely we used to send 25, 30, 40 emails a day. And then 2 months later, we're like, why is this inbox burn? And I don't think that's the sole answer. Like, I don't think volume is the only reason that you hit spam, but I think it can greatly contribute. And it's just for me, it's just a pretty obvious math thing. Like, the more times I send an email from the exact same inbox, and in my opinion, it's all about, and warm up to me is the same concept. Is you have to look like a human, right? Normal humans don't send 25 emails 10 minutes apart a day and do that day after day after day, right? So it's those pattern interrupts, that consistency, and I feel like the lower volume you can get away with, the more curated you're going to be with your lead list, and the less risk you're going to pose to that account.
One other thought
Sorry,
is,
go for it.
when you say when you say like emails, is that based on the email domain or just the email account, and you'd have different domain or different accounts under one domain? That makes sense.
Yeah, we typically have 4 email accounts per domain, if that makes sense. So we'll have 4 different email accounts. We always use real people. And then we'll, so if I need to send, kind of doing the math in my head, if I need to do 1,000 emails a day, for us, that's, 100 email accounts sending 10 emails a day.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think it is a approach. It's definitely not the only approach that we see working on the Allegrow side of things, because I think it's completely dependent on the use case. So if you're an agency and you have to deliver leads for a client, there is a certain amount of volume that needs to be conducted, and you're probably not able to use the client's internal infrastructure, right? You can't go and use their main domain because of the risks involved. But on the flip side of that, I see you, Josh, at 10 per day, getting great success. Then I work with a publicly traded company, and I've seen their account executives do 1,000 in a day once, and they have an exceptional success, and they have so much pipeline generated. And the conclusion I've come to is there's no one magic number to say to people, do this many cold emails per day and you'll be fine. It's really dependent on your segment of the market, the types of accounts you use, but also your existing infrastructure. If you're a big company, you're going to get away with a lot more because of the number of inbound emails per day, because of the number of client interactions per day. So I think people have to just think about the number they need to get to, what they're seeing right now from bounce rates, what they're seeing from reply rates, and then work back to how many emails they can do per account, rather than say it has to be 10 or it can't be X or Y. It goes without saying, though, on your point, Josh, more volume is generally higher risk. So I agree with that. But there's different ways to get to the same place. And it's always a marvel, because I spoke to someone recently who moved from a big company to a small company, and they were like, what is going on with the volume here? We used to do so much more and have zero issues. And it was like, well, that's a completely different ball game when you're getting that kind of friendly traffic every day.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. And I think it really kind of comes down to something I talked about earlier, which is, number one, you have to give signals off that are indicative of being a human, right? Cold email is not set up to be that way, but if you're a big organization, you're using some of the same technology that drives SEO. You're using some of the same technology that gives off signals from an organization perspective to Google, to Microsoft, et cetera. And so I do empirically agree with you that the health of the primary infrastructure of the company drastically makes a difference. That being said, I have plenty of clients as well that were sending 50 to 100 emails a day from their primary domain and secondary domains that they've set up through HubSpot and other other type of platforms that have come to us because their reply rate used to be 3% and it's now 1,000%, right? So I don't think there's a magic bullet. I just think it kind of comes down to you got to do what works for you, but you also have to be willing to adjust and be nimble, because honestly, if there's anything I can say with empirical truth is that what works today will absolutely not work tomorrow.
Yeah. And I think that's a great segue to the next section. Nikita, you as the founder of Maildoso have built an email deliverability suite. Can you talk about why you built this and where you see email deliverability going as the space changes?
Yeah, sure. So the idea of this company, it's like initially it was an internal tool. My previous company called backlinkswappers.com, it's a marketplace for SEO professionals to exchange backlinks. And we were using cold email to acquire customers. At some point, we had over 600 customers. All of them were acquired over cold email. And we couldn't use any other channels because we had to be hyper focused on specific niches, because like we cannot just run Facebook ads, because we will get leads from not connected niches and they won't be able to swap backlinks. Also, we wanted to reach out with very relevant backlink exchange opportunities. And we quickly realized that the biggest bottleneck for us, it's email infrastructure. And we start investing into this. We start figuring out like the servers, IP addresses, all automations and stuff. And quickly it became the most sophisticated tech in the company. So the product was very simple, but the infrastructure, email infrastructure that we built became incredibly complex. And then I remember this moment when I was sharing with a few of my friends how we do cold email, how we automatically buy domains, set up all the DNS records, create mailboxes, spin up IP addresses and stuff. And I saw like their faces where like well, can you teach me how to do the same? So like, okay, there is something here. So maybe it is something that, other people need. So me and my co-founder, we quickly built a landing page just to see like if it's, if it might be interested to other people. We built a landing page, a couple of very simple automations. At the very beginning, we sent our clients simple form, fill out like mention here domains, how do you want to call your mailboxes and stuff, and that's it. And then we run a cold email campaign and quickly realized that from a single cold email campaign, we got more paid customers than we usually get free trials for backlink swappers. So it became a no-brainer for us to pivot the company. So at this time, we were a team of 6 people. So we pivoted to Maildoso nearly 18 months ago. Yeah, and it's a very fun journey building a cold email infrastructure company. So where do I see the deliverability is going? So at first, we need to understand where we are right now. So as Josh mentioned, Google not necessarily believe that cold emails are bad. And we clearly see this because spam filters on corporate mailboxes work a little bit differently than spam filters on free email accounts. They just built differently. And it's a lot more easier to get into corporate mailboxes. I don't know if it's built on purpose or not, but there is a huge difference between, email, Gmail mailboxes, free mail mailboxes and corporate mailboxes. Huge difference. And the huge difference in how the infrastructure should be set up, because they have different requirements. And also, I believe the whole industry exists because Gmail spam filters are not very strict. It's honestly the company with the resources they have, they could have built a spam filter that just, works like a black hole. You send emails and never get anything back. I don't know, like maybe it's not a priority for them right now. Maybe there are other reasons. Probably they a little bit busy these days with trying to not lose the market share to OpenAI or something. But it's definitely one of the key things that we need to take into consideration. If you want to see how good spam filters look like, try to reach out to Fortune 5000 companies. They all have advanced email protection systems, and you will quickly realize, oh, okay, this is how good spam protection looks like. And then, so there is one thing that's certain. Getting into inboxes won't become easier. It never became easier in the past, and it will become harder. So the big pivotal moment is going to be when Google release something to increase spam protection of corporate mailboxes. It's going to be like a big moment. I don't know if it happens like this year, next year. Maybe it won't happen in the next, 10 years. Who knows? But it might happen. This is one of the biggest things to look at. And of course, AI makes a huge difference in the we of course everyday people book demos with us. We jump on a call and review sometimes their campaigns, and in 90% of the cases, I'm saying about like average cold emailer, they have deliverability issues because they set up one template and been using this for months. And it's like 90% of the cases. As soon as they learn how to use spin tags and how to use AI to generate new cold emails, at least once a week, they start getting consistent results. And but there are agencies or cold emailers that make every single cold email look unique, and it make a huge difference in the deliverability because a lot of what spam filters do, they basically searching for patterns in cold email and then block those patterns. And if your email is unique, it's very hard to identify any patterns in there. And the era of AI will certainly influence spam filters, how they work. We'll see the big changes here. I even sometimes I think that they might introduce like digital identity or something, like verified digital identity or something. But not sure how would it work, but it's certainly one of the answers to the questions.
If there's one thing that you think that people are missing, that's like an easy way to increase deliverability or an easy tool to use, like what would you recommend? Or what are people most excited about when they try Maildoso?
Yeah, first of all, of course, Maildoso. I would definitely recommend to using it. And also, like, there is one skill that you can easily learn or figure out how to, implement AI to do this, is write good emails. Like most of the time, cold emails are just open your spam folder, you will see them all. They're usually not good. And those that are good, they they make a huge difference. Even in tough niches, you can write beautiful cold emails. We have a Slack community, and I remember and there is a section, roast my copy. And one of the first sequences that one of our clients posted there, they were using like the cold email for SEO agency, and it was like it was good. But then one of our clients, she's a brilliant copywriter. She proposed something very different, but it like when you see it, you quickly realize, yeah, this is gonna give you like 10% reply rate. And she proposed this version. Like she said, "Hey, I tried to find your phone on Google, but couldn't." Or I couldn't find your phone on Google. Mind if I send you a quick guide on how you can fix it? And like instead of like very long like SEO speech, she proposed this, and this one would definitely work great. So like email copywriting, definitely one of the skills that you need to learn if you do cold email.
Do you have any tips for how to get good at copywriting?
Okay.
I have one tip.
Go on.
Okay.
Is look at the cold emails that you've responded to, put them all in a folder, and then start mimicking that.
That is
That's
smart.
what I do. I've responded probably to about 5 a year. Every year that we've been in business. They're always so much better. I'm probably getting 25 to 30 a day minimum on a good day.
Not to put you on the spot, but if you have it handy, can you share any of those emails in the folder?
Yeah, I will. Give me a second. I gotta get into the inbox. Good cold emails.
That's
I screenshot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I screenshot every good cold email I receive. Yeah.
Here's one.
I mean, one of the things I tell people is like read your email as if you were actually receiving it, and then ask yourself honestly, would I engage with this? Like, and if you once you get to that point where you would reply to your own email, you're at least much closer than you were where you started.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. I will share my screen. If I can share the right thing. There's about 1,000 tabs here, so bear with me 1 second. Here's a good one from Paddle out of the UK. They're Allegro customer as an example, but this was, by the way, this is not even the existing product for Allegro anymore, so it's a little bit dated that he's pointed out, but he's gone to our pricing page. He's found the specifics around what we offer. He sees that we're incorporated in the UK, and he points out that we are not billing in pounds, we're only billing in dollars, and uses that as a call out in the email. Now, does it go against some of the best practices of like classic cold email copywriting? Absolutely. But if you know me, you know if I see rate my outbound email, I'm probably going to open that because I'm in this space. So he knew his prospect pretty well, I think is the key thing there.
Yeah. I also like to see that there's an image there. Like that's something that we'll often kind of hear people say is like any image, any link is a death sentence. Like, dude, if it helps you improve the quality of the email, it's just worth it. 9 out of 10.
You know, Josh mentioned this was the only thing that we're completely confident on is it's going to keep getting harder, but also it's the thing that works today probably won't work tomorrow or, you know, in 4 or 5 months' time. I think the biggest underpinning of a good campaign is positive engagement. So if you have a campaign, because that list is so targeted, every single person is absolutely the right contact. There's no spam traps on there. If you have a campaign that is going to have super high engagement, you can break a few of those classic rules. 2 links max, no images ever.
Yeah.
Subject lines have to be 2 words. You can break a couple of them if the engagement is very high on that campaign.
I mean, to be fair, I have a client who sends 25 emails a day, includes links, and has been doing it now for 9 months, but his reply rate is 14%. And so he can empirically get away with anything, right? And
game over.
Your point is spot on. Like, and I think engagement kind of comes down to what we were talking about earlier. It's just a signal that, like, you know, you're more like a human. You're getting a 14% reply rate versus 0.02, which other campaigns get, right? So you're right on the money.
Cool. Okay, so on the other side of the world from copy, let's talk a little bit about email verification. So Rory, we'll pass this to you. Can you talk about Allegrow and why you started the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So way back, I built a marketing automation app, and every single customer complained about emails landing in spam folders. It became the pain of my life. Um, we built small module to help with email deliverability, and it very quickly became the only module in the application. And every single person we demoed that we were like, God, this is a dream customer. It'd be great to have them. They're so cool. Was always so much more interested in the email deliverability than the what we were doing on just general delivery of emails. So we pivoted the business as well to focus completely on that. The reason why we're so focused now on email verification is if you have the wrong contact or if you start emailing a spam trap, someone that doesn't exist, you're never going to hit the primary inbox. You've already failed at the very first hurdle, which is having the right person to reach out to. And day to day, if you compare, we're all sales and marketers on here today. If you compare your activity versus a standard business person, executive team member, finance team member, pick any email account that isn't in sales and marketing. If you compare your activity versus their activity, there will be one key difference that is very consistent for the most part, and that is they very rarely get bounces. Very rarely do they have flat thumbs, thick fingers, whatever you want to call it. Just type in the wrong address and get a bounce back. It probably happens to the average email sender once a week, maybe once a month, depending on how high volume they are. For a sales rep or a marketer, unfortunately, I would expect most of you are seeing a bounce maybe every day that you run a campaign. And that's a really big signal that you're reaching out to people that you do not know. And the second thing to touch on, which is really what I wanted to dive in more today on, is you're seeing a fraction of the real bounces that happen in the world of email deliverability. So the bounce backs that you get, we all know them. They say, hey, recipient not here, incorrect address, basically, and they have a status code. Those bounce backs are only the ones that you can see, usually from SMB servers. Larger businesses, I know we have a few mid-market to enterprise sellers in the call today. Larger businesses will have a catch-all server. And what a catch-all server does is it means if you come to Allegro and we had a catch-all server, you could type in mickey.mouse at allegro.co, send it, and we won't give you a bounce back. We'll reroute that incorrect email to a group company account that's managed by our security person. It's sometimes info at, it's sometimes security at. It varies depending on the company, but it is not going to be delivered to your end recipient. Now, why does that kill your deliverability? Well, if I have a 6-step sequence and I send them all to that incorrect contact and I get no bounces back, they don't come out of the sequence. So I do a few things. I waste time following up with someone that isn't there anymore at the company. I might even be making phone calls on top of those email touch points if I'm an enterprise seller. So it's wasting my time and resources. Number two, I'm going to an account where I'm much more likely to get spam reported. And then number three, I'm going to an account where I'm not going to get the positive engagement that I want. And for a big company, every single email you send to the wrong person means the next email you send to the right person is more likely to go to spam and less likely to go to the primary inbox. Nikita mentioned if you want to see really tough spam filters, go and prospect the Fortune 1000 companies. It's a completely different ballgame. So we're specializing on that data set. What I wanted to touch a little bit on now is kind of the old school versus the new school approach of doing this. So we all have a data provider, I'm sure, on here today. We all have someone who gives us lead lists that we can go ahead and reach out to. Why is the data on those data providers tend to have mistakes and have errors, have these types of contacts? Well, legacy verification uses something called SMTP. And basically all they do is they ping the SMTP server and say, is this a real email address? And the server comes back and says yes or no. Now, the catch-all emails, the ones that have those silent bounces that I mentioned earlier, they say that every single email is correct. So it's impossible to tell which ones are really valid and which ones are incorrect. So what we do at Allegro and what the legacy systems do instead, actually, legacy systems just say that's catch-all unknown. So the best we can do is just guess based on the email pattern. We think this address is correct, or we haven't seen any bounces from it, so we think it's probably good to go, which leaves a huge margin for error. What we do at Allegro instead is we said, look, that's not good enough. We need to go a layer deeper. We need to do more verification steps. And we now have a proprietary method where we can verify those catch-all emails. So we can tell you those companies that you're usually throwing away, either not prospecting or taking a big risk prospecting them, these are the valid contacts that you want to reach out to. And those catch-all servers tend to make up about 25 to 45% of your overall list. If you're an enterprise seller, it might be even more than that. So it's a big chunk of the list, and that means there's really two key impacts from doing this deep catch-all verification on top of what you get from data providers. Number one is if you were just throwing away that portion of your list because you thought it was too high risk, you're going to get 25 to 45% of your list back. That's a bigger TAM that you can reach out to. It's more potential prospects for you. It's more pipeline value getting generated at the end of the year. If, on the other hand, you were just emailing them anyway and taking a bit more of a risk, it means you're going to have less spam traps on your list. It means you're going to have a higher sender reputation, and it means you hit the primary inbox more consistently. One final thing that I should add is we noticed something kind of weird in the email verification space. Every single vendor charges you per credit based on how many contacts that you have. And what we realized working with clients on the same model for a while is they just don't run verification often enough. They do it once per year on their database or once every 90 days. You need to be doing verification every single month, sometimes more than that, maybe even every week to get real results out of it. So we decided to flip the model a little bit recently. And what we now do is one fixed fee, unlimited email verification. So we sign you up on a fixed monthly fee based on the type of data set that you have, whether it's catch-all, whether it's mostly SMB, and we'll take as much data as you can throw at us, and we welcome the challenge on making that work on our side.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I'm curious for Nikita, Josh, are you guys also verifying emails, or how do you think about this too?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely do. I mean, we run primary verification, and then to Roy's point, I mean, we think it's critical not to skip the catch-alls, because a lot of people do. It's, you know, it's an extra step. So we run 2 levels of verification via API for every single lead, but maybe after today we'll be looking at a different approach. So.
The API is just going live this week. So we have a few small list of clients that are trying it out. I hope we can welcome more API users shortly and data partners.
Sweet.
Once I had a conversation with one of our customers and I asked, like, do you do email verification? He said, yeah, of course, I do. Like, when did you last time did this? He said, like, yeah, I verified them like a year ago. And like, keep blasting. And so, yeah, this is the number one mistake you don't want to make, is to verify your leads regularly, because yeah, people change jobs. So that's very important.
Kills me when I hear that. That was what brought a tear to my eye and made me change the pricing model completely. Because people would say, they'd say, how much is our list, right? Like 500,000 emails is our total TAM, or 50,000. Let's get budget for 50,000 credits, and we'll do it once every 6 months, or we'll do it once a year. Meanwhile, the data is decaying every single month, sometimes as much as like 30% year over year. So, you know, that's pretty good for the first month, but then they get into month 2, month 3, month 4, and it's not a surprise that you're getting a lot of bounces because of those job changes. So yeah, I feel the pain there of trying to make sure that people realize, you know, you want to do regular verification. In fact, we want it to happen at the point of schedule with some of our integrations. So every single time the email gets scheduled, really quickly, we want to run that verification. And then if we get a bad result back, just stop it from going and just catch them at the very last minute. And we call that the safety net.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. So, you know, everything, it's a very seamless flow. You're able to send, and then it just saves you. Cool. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to going to bring things over to video email deliverability. And one thing I want to stress on video is that like everything else really matters. Like as we mentioned before, video is one part of your email. And if you're sending really good emails, like the fact it's a video, the fact it's a link and an image, right? Like that's not what's going to kill you. It's more important to do everything else right in the things that we talked about, right? So the low sending volume per email. And if you're really strong, you can ramp that up, but you should start low and test things out. Have really good copy. And this is where I think video can actually help deliverability. Videos are proven to be more engaging than text and just get higher reply rates. Like if your video's in the inbox, it's 3 times more likely to get a response. And so this is a way that it really helps you. But as long as you're doing everything else right, like, you got to balance that trade-off. One thing Nikita mentioned briefly, but is really important, is making every email unique. And whether you're doing this with spin text or AI or some combination, like that has a really large impact. And so sometimes when I see people doing video wrong, they're just sending the video in a email without any other text around it. And that's like a waste of an opportunity, like one, to have good content and to say what's in the video to drive engagement, but also as a way to mix up the messaging. And related to that too, that's another reason to use custom domains for your video. So at SendSpark, you can actually like set up your own sending domain as part of the video so that you're on it, you're not going to use the sendspark.com domain. Though we haven't had issues with it, but it's always just best practice to set that up. And so that'll help you make sure that your emails are unique. And of course, you want to verify the emails and then keep a tab on what you're doing and monitor your reply rates, run spam tests to make sure that you are landing in the inbox, right? Just because you think you've set things up right doesn't mean that you necessarily have, or maybe you have today, but hey, the world changed 3 months. So like you should always be checking in on that and then being able to adapt as things go on. So if you're doing everything right, hopefully your videos will only help your campaigns. But I'd love to know from you guys too, what you're doing and what changes maybe you make if you're sending videos and campaigns.
Happy to, yeah. So we do videos only for a subset of accounts. And there are accounts that we think have the highest potential value. We always do video as the second threaded step in the email campaign rather than the first email. The first email goes out, it's plain text, it's very, very short. It doesn't have links in it other than our footer link or our signature link, depending on what you describe it as. But then the second email in the thread has the video attached via a link out. And our thought process on that is we call it anchoring. So if our first email has impeccable copy, follows every best practice, it then lands in the primary inbox from one of our high authority domains, which means the second threaded email that we send is more likely to place in the primary inbox because we already have anchored our position in there. That's one of the strategies that we've implemented, but the main one is just having a great video. The video has to be good. If the video is bad, people are going to report it as spam, and then you're going to spam on the next ones you send anyway. If the video is really, really good and it engages the person, you get a reply. And that is the single best indicator that your email content is good, your reputation should stay high, you should get in more inboxes. So those are our thoughts on kind of how we incorporate video at Allegrow.
Yeah, I mean, we've done it plenty of times in the first email too, but it's really just the same concepts that you talked about, right? Like it has to be good, it has to be relevant. It becomes the headline, right? So you don't want to have 16 paragraphs of text and then the video. And I also think it's just about, balance. I mean, my personal opinion is if I send a little bit lower levels when I'm including links or video or any kind of images, and we've done it with images too, not just video, right? But I think if you can kind of keep that volume down and your warm up high, like mathematically, I look at it from the perspective of like, does Google really care that I'm sending 3 or 4 videos a day when I'm also have 40 warm up emails going on that are plain text? So, there's a lot of like not exact science here, but I mean, we see it work. I mean, it works well. And it's also, to my opinion, it's a strategic advantage because look, I don't get a lot of video emails in my inbox ever almost. It's always just some version of, somebody's best plain text. So even if I, even if I and trying to get through really hard spam filters, a Fortune, 1,000, maybe I don't get to too many of those people with the video, but you're going to get, in my opinion, a much higher conversion rate just because you don't get that many, and that's going to attract attention if you do it well, to your point, right?
Yeah, I was sharing before this webinar that we at Maildoso, we set up custom domain tracking for every client by default. It's set up automatically. And when our clients send emails with links and images, we automatically replace them with their custom domain. And what we recently implemented, it's not rolled out yet, but this is how it's going to work, is that every once in a while, we will change domain of this custom domain tracking. Let's say if customer has like 10 domains for the first week, we're going to use like the first domain, then for the second week, the second domain and stuff. And then, so essentially how spam filters work with all these links and images, they learn that's a specific link sent from this specific sender often occurred in emails that were marked as spam. So they start blocking emails with exactly the same link. But if you change this link often, you kind of always ahead of spam filters. So this is a very good method to send videos. And also another thing is that if you see that your campaigns stop performing, like whatever, it's like video or something, just pause sending from these specific mailboxes for a few weeks. Let them cool down, and you'll be surprised that exactly the same campaign after 3 weeks will start performing again. That's why it's always advisable to have more mailboxes than you actually use so that you can do this stuff. You can switch sending, and then you will always have good reply rates.
That's such a cool feature. I'm very excited for that. Just make people's lives easy. Okay, cool. I know we're getting to the end, so let's open it up to Q&A. I pulled aside a few questions that have been posted in the chat, and then if you guys scroll through and there's anything you specifically want to answer, go for it. And for people attending, just feel free to drop more questions either in the chat or the Q&A section of Zoom. The first thing I'll bring up, so this is from Eric, is balancing high volume cold emailing with strategic outreach. Especially Josh, I feel like you talked a bit about this, so if you want to add any more here.
Yeah, I think the core aspect is that the fundamentals of what we do doesn't change based off scale, right? It's definitely harder. It's harder to pull 1 million leads a month than it is 10,000, but it doesn't change the premise of how we approach copy, right? Or how we approach deliverability, which is, in my opinion, conservative. Being more conservative is better. And the idea of whether you're doing that with 5 email accounts or 500 is just staying consistent with that and developing, for us, developing processes and SOPs that allow you to go up or down depending on what the need is for the client.
Mm-hmm.
All I would have to add to that as well is, like, when you talk about being strategic, I assume the person's talking about their strategic accounts, like their biggest potential clients. So what you're going to do there differently to someone who is we talk about tier 1, 2, and 3 accounts. Tier 1 is like 25 companies that we think if we close one of them, that's the quarter taken care of, pretty much. Then there's tier 2, which is bread and butter, like they have a tech stack that we integrate to, we're confident of that. And then tier 3 is everyone else who might just be borderline interested. Your tier 1 strategics, you're going to do more touch points to them, is probably the main thing, but you're going to do multi-channel touch points, not just email. So a tier 3 account might get a 3 email sequence, but a tier 1 account might get 5 calls along with 3 emails and 2 LinkedIn touch points, as well as you have your marketer go ahead and try and do an ABM campaign to target the company via display ads. So I think one of the key things on strategic is the fundamentals of the copywriting don't change, but the level of automation just tends to go down, and the level of manual effort tends to go up a little bit for us, at least on those strategic accounts.
Good point. Erica asked this question. I think it's something I wonder too, especially as things change. But what is a good reply rate today? Like, are there standards that you guys look for, or does it depend a bit on the industry, how warm the buyer is, other things like that?
It's so dependent on the industry and the ACV. If I'm selling a $150,000 a year product in information security, I'll probably have, and I'm okay with, a much lower reply rate than if I'm selling a $2,000 a year product that I need to get, 20 to 50 new customers a month for. So it's often driven by the competition in your space. I've read general benchmarking, research that's coming out of our partners that are sales engagement systems, is they like to see above a 3% positive reply rate. That would be, I think for most people, that would be something they were happy with and felt was sustainable, if we had to put a number on it. But yeah, very much driven by the space and the ACV that you're selling at and how that feeds into the rest of your sales process.
I'll add to, since we work like with a lot of people adding video to their campaigns, like our real goal is to help you drive better results than what you have been doing. And so I feel like I've seen reply rates all over the place, and then, we're aiming to help you get 2 to 3 times higher, but that can be like starting at, less than 1% and you're getting over 1%, or, with some people who have, maybe a stronger brand or just doing other things differently, might be up and getting like literally in the 80s. So I've seen across the spectrum.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to remember volume matters too. Like, I have clients we send 1 million emails for, and a 1% reply rate is 10,000 replies, right? But if you send 100 emails, a 1% reply rate is 1 reply. So you have to definitely kind of consider volume, and to your point, the TAM, right, and who you're reaching out to.
Absolutely. Most of those posts you see with the super, super high reply rates, they're doing outbound to people that already know them. So, we do see really high reply rates on some campaigns at Allegrow, but there's only 20 people on that list. So we have to do other stuff too. We can't just rely on that campaign, So should you put more touch points, and should you have separate campaigns and structures for the really high intent sequences? Absolutely. And you will get and should expect higher reply rates on them. But it probably, for most companies' growth ambitions, it can't be all you do to conduct outbound sales is go to the most warm segment of the market for you.
Yeah. I know we're getting a little tight on time. Are there any questions you guys saw that you want to bring up and answer? Otherwise, I'll have.
Can I add one more thing on the reply rate? It was actually one very funny conversation with a potential customer. I hope on a demo, and I was like asking them if they're happy with their outbound, with results they get from outbound. They said, no, we are not happy. Why is that? Our reply rate is too low. Okay, what's your reply rate? 3%. We aren't happy. And like, it turns out they spent like a lot of time figuring out how to get more than 3% reply rate. And what I said to them is like, guys, if you want to kind of grow your sales, maybe like 3%, not that bad. You hop on this call, and like my reply rate is like around 1%. And but I have like the full calendar of meetings because I just go volume. Maybe this might be unlock, like might be like the same strategy might unlock your growth. So and it was funny to see how like they realized, oh, we were focusing on the wrong thing. Like, okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I just had a customer complain that they were getting, it was slightly higher than 10% watch rate on their cold videos. I'm like, guys,
That's phenomenal.
Like, but the bar is whatever you set it at.
Yeah, I see a lot of questions in the chat, like, should I send video on the first email, second email, this, that? I think the one thing I've learned doing this for a lot of different clients, for a lot of different campaigns, is there is no hard and fast rule of what will always work, but try different things, like A/B test, send videos in the first email, send videos in the second email, send 10 a day, send 25 a day, right? And just be agile, right? Because most things will work for a while and then they stop working, right? So you just, it's like any kind of marketing at the end of the day. It's you have to evolve, you have to try different things, and you will, if you spend enough time doing it, you will find something that works. And it doesn't usually happen the first time you try it, in our experience.
Yeah. I think that's a great note to end on, to be honest, is try different things and see what works for you. And remember that all of the rules you hear about are someone else's A/B test. So it's good to run your own data. Can I ask you guys to drop in either email, LinkedIn, or however you want people to be able to contact you in the chat, if that's okay, if people have follow-up questions. And I'll just post my LinkedIn here, so feel free to connect with me as well. I'm sorry if we didn't get your question answered. I'm trying to take notes of all the questions too, so we can follow up individually, but feel free to reach out to us as well. Cool. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you guys so much for hosting. This was awesome. Really, really good stuff. And hope
Thanks,
you have
Bethany.
Thank you.